This is TWiT.
And this was sort of interesting. I wanted to talk to you about this. Delaware just enacted some legislation that had been proposed by a nonprofit group. The Uniform Law Commission is a group that tries to sort of keep our federated states synchronized so that we're not wandering off too much in different directions. So they proposed some legislation. This Uniform Law Commission proposed some legislation with the awkward acronym, the UFADAA, which is the Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act. And what this does, what Delaware put a bill together, which the House passed. It was Delaware House Bill HB 345, which the governor signed into law, which classifies digital assets in the same fashion as physical assets after a person dies, meaning that your survivors get access to all your social media accounts and other digital accounts. The way the law reads, it says, a fiduciary with authority over digital assets or digital accounts of an account holder under this chapter shall have the same access as the account holder and is deemed to have the lawful consent of the account holder and be an authorized user under all applicable state and federal law and regulations and any end-user license agreement. So essentially, if you pass away or are incapacitated in the same process where of probate, where your other assets go to are inherited by your heirs, under this legislation, so would your digital assets be, which I don't know that I want that.
Well, there you go. That's your fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah, currently it's only Delaware, and there's discussion about whether it's where the person is or where the company is. And because there was talk about California being important because we have so much happening in Silicon Valley, but I'm hoping that a will could override this, where a will could say, for example, right now this is Delaware only, but this seems to be the direction we're going in. So do we want our heirs to have all of our usernames and passwords?
The real issue, I think, is sometimes an heir will go to Facebook and Facebook will say, well, actually, Facebook has a process now, but originally Facebook would say, well, I'm sorry, you're not the person. I don't care if you're their spouse or you're their, executor. We're not. Where it's happened with Gmail? In fact, it's happened a couple of times with email systems for soldiers who have lost their lives.
Yes, there was a famous Yahoo case where Yahoo refused
and his
to turn
dad
over.
wanted to access his final emails, and Yahoo said,
right,
you're not him. So I think it's probably more to address that kind of situation, right?
Right. So typically when a person dies, access to a digital service officially dies with them. And with this law, your digital life would become an asset which your heirs could inherit. And so as I was saying, I'm hoping that you can override this with a will that says, I don't want my heirs to have access to my accounts. I mean, that's just sort of seems creepy to me. It's not a problem for me since I plan to live a long time and I don't have any kids, but still or my family. It's like, that's my stuff is not anyone else's business. I don't want someone posting as me or impersonating me.
We've talked about this on, in fact, we just last week talked about it on This Week in Google. And, Google has an account activity monitor. They don't mention death.
Yes, I did hear you guys talking about that. Yeah.
But they say if your there's a certain, you could set the period of time if your account has not been accessed, and one of the behaviors is we'll delete everything. So even if your heirs do have access to it.
Yeah.
Right. Does the law specify that I have to give somebody my passwords? Because if they don't have my passwords, then they have to go to Google, right?
No, and in fact, many terms of service specifically exclude that. In Facebook's terms of service, they said you will not, in their terms of service, you are agreeing you will not share your password, or in the case of developers, your secret key, let anyone else access your account, or do anything else that might jeopardize the security of your account. You will not transfer your account, including any page or application you administer, to anyone without first getting our written permission. So, Facebook is stating very clearly that, this is for your personal and private use and not to be shared.
Although they do have a process. If you die, your next of kin will then notify Facebook he died, and they make a they do something called memorialize your page. Did you know that?
Which freezes it?
No, it allows people to comment, but I can't remember what the rules are. But it's like, no, this person has passed on.
Oh, wow.
This is a memorial now to that person.
Well, so we're figuring this out. I mean, as our lives become digital, and that digital existence outlives us, as bits
it's
tend
fascinating. Now, so far this is Delaware only, and I don't know if this
right. Although from the background that I read, it looked like they're just first. Delaware tends to be where a lot of companies incorporate. My previous company, Gibson Labs, was a Delaware.
TWiT's a Delaware corporation,
an S corp, because they tend to be corporate friendly. And I just didn't bother with Gibson Research.
Yeah. So here's the Facebook page. What happens when a person's account is memorialized? No one can log into that account again.
Okay, good. So it's locked.
It's locked.
Right.
It can't be modified in any way. This includes adding or removing friends, modifying photos, or deleting any pre-existing content. Depending on the privacy settings, friends can share memories on the memorialized timeline. Anyone, I don't know what the purpose of this is, but anyone can send private messages to the deceased person.
Ooh.
That's odd.
Where do they go? Where do they go?
What happens to them? Content the deceased person shared remains on Facebook and is visible to the audience it was shared with. It's just kind of frozen in amber. But memorialized timelines don't appear in public spaces, such as suggestions for people you may know or birthday reminders. Seems like a good idea. So I think Facebook has really been on the forefront of what do we do, because it's probably happened quite a bit already.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be a federal law. A state-by-state solution is not going to ever work until it's a
right. And I think this tends to be the way things happen, is that states experiment with them and play with them, and then at some point someone decides, that seems to work. Let's make it. Let's have this go nationwide.
Yeah.